At least one committee member, Adam Kinzinger, suggested that this could end in charges against former President Trump. Take a listen.
Look, we have to be very careful and very clear. We're not a criminal committee. We're investigating the facts. But if DOJ looks at what we're doing and said that reaches a threshold to charge, I think they should. And I think that's what I hope they at least look at.
So, Barb, what are the chances, as you see it, of a federal indictment here?
I think it depends certainly on the investigation, but I think it grows far more likely with each passing day. And based on what we saw on Thursday, I think the likelihood has increased. I think there are two potential criminal charges here against either Trump himself or members of his inner circle: conspiracy to defraud the United States and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, which would be sort of a subset of that larger. But I think that that larger conspiracy doesn't require proving that Trump was connected up to the mob. If you can simply prove that Trump used Mike Pence to try to overturn the election, for example, or that he tried to persuade the Secretary of State of Georgia to overturn the election in even one state, or that he was pushing for alternate slates of electors so that those could be used instead of the genuine ones. Any of those can form a basis for a conspiracy to defraud the United States. But the key to all of those is fraud, and that means proving that Trump knew he had lost. That's why that evidence that they put up on Thursday that Peter just mentioned is so critically important. The fact that Trump knew he lost. And the more people that there are telling him that in the days after the election, the stronger that case becomes. And so I'm sure the Justice Department is looking at that and probably gathering their own evidence. And at some point, it becomes overwhelming. Julian, there is a jury instruction that jurors get that is called willful blindness, and it's something to the gist of it is a person cannot ignore a high probability that a fact is true just by ignoring it. They can't pretend it's true just because they want it to be so. At some point, if the fact is so strongly true that everyone can see it, you can infer that the person at issue also knew that it was true.
And Peter, I want to go back to you. What do you make of President Biden's response here? He said that he was too busy to watch.
Well, look, he wants to keep a distance from this, obviously. I mean, to the extent that there is any kind of consequence from this, to the extent that this would ever potentially lead to legal charges, the last thing he wants is to look like he's doing the same thing that President Trump did, which was to politicize the Justice Department, to be calling for prosecution of his political enemies and that sort of thing. And that's the next layer of this decision-making that Barb has just talked about. I mean, she's talked about this as a legal matter, what elements of a crime need to be addressed here. But there's also another question to be asked that Merrick Garland, as the Attorney General, would have to answer, which is it wise in the Republic to prosecute a former president? We've never done it before. Would that be seen as accountability, righteous accountability, given the events that have happened and the responsibility he should have for it? Or would it be, deleterious to the system to look like we prosecute people who are out of office by, a new administration coming in that defeats it? And that's a really interesting and tough, a larger question than just a legal one that goes to the questions of a democracy and accountability and the credibility of a system. And I think that's a hard question for an attorney general like Merrick Garland to reach. We don't know whether he's even at that point, but at some point, if he were to see a legal case there, he would probably have to answer that larger question as well.